Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV Championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Hello, podcast listeners, and welcome to our GAA Postcast ahead of the 2017 Football and Hurling Championships. I'm David Jennings, and I'm delighted to be joined by an all-star cast for our podcast today. For part one, where we will be dissecting the Football Championship, we have former Cork All-Ireland winning manager Conor Coonahan, while in part two, Waterford legend John Milan to find us the best bets of the Hurling Championship. And for both part one and part two, we'll be joined by Paddy Power legend Paddy Ahern, who's the guru in Paddy Power on the GAA front. How are things, lads?
Good, DJ. How are you?
Great. Conor, great to have you on board. You've been there, you've done it, you've bought the T-shirt. Cork, you won the All-Ireland with them, 7 years ago now?
It is 7, yeah. It is that nearly.
I suppose the big question that the Cork fans would be wanting to know is, what the hell has happened since Conor Coonahan left?
Good. Listen, I suppose, look, we just didn't have such a great league this year. You know, probably lost a good few players, you know, when I left that time. And but I suppose, certainly wasn't a good league campaign. But look, I believe fellas are working hard. So look, we're just hoping that things can turn around in the championship.
And Conor, you're one of the very few who get to experience what it's like to win an All-Ireland title. And I know obviously you were, from what I hear, you were quite a high quality player back in your day, a no nonsense type of player. But as a manager, I suppose, more recently, what was it like to actually win in All-Ireland? The experience itself, was it more relief, or what was the feeling in the dressing room after the game? Because Cork had been knocking on the door for a long time before you won that All-Ireland.
Yeah, I suppose, look, it's a mixture of relief and joy, I suppose. You know, the idea that you have a group of people there, you know, 30-odd players in a management team, and that you're striving for something there for a number of years, and to finally achieve the ultimate, it's something very special. Look, I suppose it doesn't happen that often for that many teams or individuals or that sort of thing. So, look, it is, you know, it's a very competitive championship now, and to get to the top is, you know, it's very rewarding. It's something that, you know, you'll treasure for the rest of your life, I suppose. And
rumour has it the celebrations from 2010 are still ongoing in Cork, are they?
I don't know about that, no. I haven't been part of them anyway.
Paddy, coming to you, I suppose this is for a GAA trader and Paddy Power. I suppose this is the real exciting time. There's so much to look forward to. And what I suppose, if you're to pick out what are you most looking forward to this summer, what would it be?
Yeah, well, I'd be more of a hurling man, really, Dave. So I really just can't wait for that to kick off. Like, both championships, at the start of the leagues, it looks like we're going to go towards even money or odds on, maybe Dublin or Tipperary, but now it's actually really looking like two properly competitive championships where you have a couple of teams who can win them both, and I just can't wait for it to get started, really, because like the league showed the quality that's out there in both football and hurling these days. It's just like, it's as good as I can remember, and I can't wait to get started, to be honest.
And I remember years ago you might go to football and hurling matches and you'd be cheering on your home county, but it's got to the stage now where you always have to cheer on somebody, because most of the time we have a bet in a match, and GAA betting has kind of got so big now that everybody seems to have an opinion, and there's so many markets as well. Like the amount of markets that Paddy Power will have for the games compared to the markets that would have been 10 years ago, I suppose it's a huge difference, is it?
Yeah, massive altogether. And like you say, it's just because of public interest, really. I mean, like you kind of saw a bit of an increase when Sky came on board as well. Like, and you even have like the likes of UK customers getting involved and stuff like that. And like, it's great for us as well to be able to offer kind of player specials on markets and kind of man of the match and that kind of stuff, because the more we can offer, the better, because we're passionate about it. We all love our GAA, like, so if we can offer guys the chance to have a decent bet in it, we'll take it every time, you know.
Absolutely. And before we start, I should say we've got a Racing Post GAA supplement coming out on Friday, the 19th of May. So if you haven't learned enough from this podcast, you'll be able to learn plenty more in our supplement that comes out on Friday. So feel free to purchase the paper on Friday. So lads, without further ado, we're going to get cracking and try and find out who's going to win this All-Ireland Football Championship. Conor, we're going to start with you, and looking back on the league, Dublin won the league, but it's hard to say they won it on the bridle. They were under pressure a long way from home and made a few mistakes along the way, but they got over the line in the end. What did we learn from Dublin during the league?
Well, I suppose, look, if I recall, they drew 3 matches. I think they had Monaghan away, which they were very lucky to win as well. So the form wasn't that great. But look, I suppose, losing the league final probably, should be of benefit to them now, given that, I suppose Jim Gavin has a stick to beat them with now. And, if you are winning regularly, sometimes you lose a bit of hunger, but you also just take things for granted. Whereas, the gloves are off now. A lot of questions being asked that weren't asked before the league final. So I just think that I think it's going to work in Dublin's favour, to be honest. But it just does show again that they're not unbeatable. And I suppose, we certainly all admire them as a team, and they're an excellent group of players. But the reality is, even in last year's All-Ireland in the 2 games, they could have been turned over on any of those 2 given days. So at times the gaps look very big, but there's still some teams there that could take them down on the day.
And other than Dublin, Conor, is there any teams that kind of took your eye during the league? I know we spoke about Cork and your home county and who disappointed and were a bit topsy-turvy in the league. But of the top teams, the Mayos, the Kerrys, the Tyrones, who took your eye most during the league?
I suppose, look, Kerry have a tradition, and I suppose the league would have been good for them in terms of the success in it and the confidence gained from it. And I suppose they've been knocking at the door over a few years. They seem to have found a few younger players now, which, is essential in any squad of players. So I do think that they're going to really put it up to the Dubs. I suppose at the end of the day, I still think they'll probably come up short, but I think they're certainly there. Tyrone, could turn anyone over on the day, but again, I'd worry about their scoring power, which puts me off backing them to ultimately win the All-Ireland. Mayo, in terms of, been so close and yet so far away, you just wonder at this stage, is their best chance gone? And I find it difficult to back them for the All-Ireland this year. I certainly can see them winning Connacht, but I just can't see them winning the All-Ireland at this point in time.
And I suppose with where Mayo are concerned, you were involved with a Cork team that went close for a number of years, and then you finally got the pot of gold. Is it hard to come back another year after battering and going so close? Is it hard to get the motivation back, or is it an extra motivational tool?
Well, I suppose it's extra motivation, certainly, but I suppose the idea that you have players who are getting older, you're running the chance of injuries. Are you bringing in new players to add some competition within the squad? I don't know. And I suppose, look, there's that fear factor there all the time to say, look, yeah, we had it this year, we had it that year, we were nearly over the line and we didn't do it. That whole mental block, can they overcome that? Because to be honest about it, they've been through a pretty torrid time, in regard to that. And I suppose even within the county itself, there's probably a lack of belief. And that type of thing transfers to players regardless of what management may or may not do. Whereas, you see the more successful counties, they're mentally very strong. All the vibes are positive in that. But if you're listening to someone saying, "Oh, look, we never did it. We'll hardly do it now," there's a certain impact in that, and it's hard to isolate players from that.
Paddy, Conor has just said there that the people of Mayo have been through a torrid time. I've bloody been through a torrid time with Mayo. I'm finally, in 2017, I'm finally washing my hands of Mayo. After tipping them for the last 3 years on the trot, I've had enough. I've had too much heartache, so I can't imagine what it's like for the people of Mayo. Paddy, Mayo can't win this All-Ireland, can they?
I think it's going to be very, very hard for them to go back to the well again. If you think about it last year, I know they actually went through the hard way of doing it, but last year looked like their best chance. Sorry?
I think it suited them going through the back door. They got to kind of utilise Kevin McLaughlin in a different position, and they got to try things in the back door. I actually think anything that could have possibly went right for Mayo last year did go right, even getting beaten by Galway. I think it was a blessing in disguise, and they still couldn't bloody win it. Forget them.
Yeah, I don't know. If you look back at a lot of those games last year, they were hardly convincing against the likes of Fermanagh and Westmeath. And if you look at the Tyrone game, it kind of looks mad now when we look back and we sent them off 13-8 against Tyrone. But Tyrone didn't score for the last 14 minutes of that match. Mayo actually kind of exposed Tyrone really well, because in that last kind of 10 minutes, like they basically completely just wrapped up Hart, and obviously Sean Kavanagh was off the pitch, and Tyrone didn't have anyone to score. But like if that was any of the top teams, Mayo would have been beaten out the gate that day, really. Like, you know,
Absolutely, yeah.
There was a certain degree of possible overachievement to Mayo last year. Like, I know that they were kicking the ball away from winning the All-Ireland, and if they did beat Dublin on either day, you probably couldn't say they didn't deserve it. But to get into the final, to kind of come across the much easier semi-final against Tipperary, I just thought they were probably slightly a bit lucky to be in the position they were in last year. For my money this year as well, for the each way part of it mightn't be the worst bet in the world. They'll come up against
me, Paddy. Don't do it to me. No,
I'm not going to tip them, because I think they're going to be a decent price against Kerry in the semi-final if Kerry go and do everything we expect them to do. But for my money, like, if you gave me a free bet to back Kerry each way for the All-Ireland or me each way for the All-Ireland, I'd be backing Kerry 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I think we'll all echo that sentiment. Then we're just going to have a quick look at the provincial championships, and while we're on Mayo, we'll start with Connacht. Connor, Galway have made decent strides under Kevin Walsh, and considering where they were 5 years ago to where they are now, they're edging that little bit closer to Mayo, aren't they?
They are, yeah, and look, certainly as you said, they're making the incremental progress. No, I do think that there's probably one kick in Mayo in terms of the Connacht Championship this year. I think they were maybe caught a bit off guard last year. I still fancy them to come out on top, but certainly Galway, you know, will be there or thereabouts. Now, notwithstanding that, I think I read somewhere recently where some of the under-21 team this year have gone to America and that sort of thing. So, like, they would need everyone on board there to be overcoming the likes of Mayo at this stage. I just think that Mayo will win Connacht. I'm not suggesting that they're going to win in Ireland, but yeah, I think they're a banker for Connacht.
So we've got a banker to start the postcast for Mayo to win Connacht for Connor. Paddy, what price are Mayo to win Connacht with you?
Mayo are 4 to 5 at the minute. Top price with us for Connacht.
Now, Connor, I know you. I've seen you at Galway at a couple of race meetings. You're not afraid to get stuck into an odds-on shot. Mayo at 4 to 5. Would this get the Coonahan money on board?
I'd have to take it. I'd have to take it out. He might extend that a bit. We'll leave it drift a bit.
Yeah. Well, judging by some of the money we've seen, I think Connor might be already on here, to be honest. But
well, if Connor was on a 4 to 5, it would certainly be 4 to 7 now. Paddy,
no, we have seen a bit of interest in it, and like, if you do look over the last couple of years, to people it probably will look a big price. But the thing is, like, they have to go down to Salt Hill to play Galway, and I don't know what other people think, but I thought Galway were pretty decent value for their win in Castlebar last year. Like Galway are a much better team than arguably they were last year. Like, they have a very good league campaign behind them. They actually have a panel now that is... It nearly has as much depth as any of that, we'll say, outside the big four teams as you have in the country. Like, what Galway do have, if they've everyone's fit, is scores. And I think what the league kind of showed you a bit is Mayo will probably let you score. And like, Mayo are obviously going to be favourites for that game, but I definitely wouldn't rule Galway out of it. Like, I think if you look apart from that, Roscommon, even in a final against the other two, I wouldn't give them much repair. But,
well, this is the thing, Paddy. Are we not talking about Mayo are 4 to 5 to win one match? Is that not what we're talking about? Because Roscommon were so poor during the league, and they look like a team that are struggling for confidence. Being in Division 1 certainly didn't help them, and this year they were poor under Kevin McStay. Like, is this 4 to 5 not essentially 4 to 5 for Mayo to win one match?
Well, not really, because you're kind of thinking, like, when we're pricing up that final as well, you're going to have to think of a handicap as well. And I don't think Mayo are going to go out and beat Roscommon by 10 or 12 points. Maybe you think they will now. But, like, the one thing I would say about Roscommon now, I don't think that they have the capability to beat Mayo. But McStay last year in the league, basically, he had 3 or 4 All-Ireland semi-finals, All-Ireland finals in the league. Like, they were going out beating Kerry, and they were, you know, fist pumping and jumping around the place like they'd won an All-Ireland, and they threw everything into the league last year, and then they nearly got beaten by New York, and they came into the championship totally flat. So I think his whole kind of modus operandi this year is going to be to peak for the championship rather than peak in March and April and have all these big games. Now, they have lost players,
but they've also lost Fergal O'Donnell, who seemed to be held in the highest of regard by the Roscommon players. Is he not a huge loss as well?
Yeah, he probably is, and apparently a lot of the players did kind of, they were kind of fond of Fergal, right? But the thing is, like, sometimes I just think with this, with intercounty players, that's forgotten about amongst them within a couple of days or within a week or something like that. You know, they just get on with the job, with the task at hand. Like, I do think Roscommon are definitely going to be, like, they're going to be big outsiders for the game against Mayo, but I think, you know, they might be 4 or 5 point underdogs, and that's still kind of saying where the 4 or 5 is going to come from, because I'd say Mayo might only be about maybe 8-15 against Galway in that match. So
to wrap up, Connacht lads, I'm giving certainly the only vote of the day, but I'm going to give it to Mayo at 4-5. Connor, you're a Mayo fan as well?
I'm on that as well.
Yeah, Paddy?
Yeah, I would. I've back Galway at a bigger price, but yeah, I'd probably back the 3s that's out there, Galway.
Okay, so 3 votes to Mayo in the Connacht Football Championship. And I suppose the other championships that's reasonably competitive from a provincial point of view is the Ulster Football Championship. And Paddy, if you want to rattle through a bit of betting there in the Ulster Football Championship.
Yeah, just give us a second. Tyrone are 7-4 favourites. One second. Yeah, Tyrone are 7-4 favourites. Donegal are 11-4. Monaghan are 4-1. DJ's favourite team in the world, Cavan, are 8-1. Armagh are 12s. Derry are 14s, down 16-1, and then Fermanagh and Antrim 66s and 100-1.
Well, Paddy, as you well know, if there's one lesson you learn in life, is that you have to learn from your mistakes. And I have learned plenty from following the Breffni boys, and I certainly won't be following them in 2017. Paddy, we'll start with you here in Ulster. A strange type of draw in that you've got you've got Tyrone and Donegal, obviously the 2 shortest prices in Ulster on one side of the draw, and you've got you've basically got Monaghan on the other side of the draw, who look strong favourites to win that side. Where would your money be going in the Ulster Football Championship? Yeah,
of all the provincial championships, this was the only one I found a real proper bet in. I think Monaghan are a real solid bet here. Like, some of the prices out there for them to win this, I think, are miles too big. Like, we'd nearly be shorted. The only thing is, like, Darren Hughes looks like he's going to be out for most of the championship. Like, he might be back for an Ulster final.
I don't think he did his cruciate though, didn't he not?
No, he didn't. No, it's I'm not too sure what kind of injury it is, but like, what I'm hearing is he's going to be back for the tail end of the like the kind of quarterfinals, and he could be back for an Ulster final. But the thing is, like, before they get to an Ulster final, it's not really going to matter, because, like, they could be betting the handicap this weekend against Fermanagh, to be honest. Like, if I had to back either side of that,
they are.
I'd probably back that, to be honest. Like, I think they'll beat Cavan. Like, if whoever Armagh are down, whoever comes out of that, like, they're going to be decent favourites there. And what they have added this year is, like, with the introduction of Jack McCarron, he's really taken kind of the workload off McManus. And I think it's actually going to work out in McManus's favour, because, like, in every game in Ulster for the last 5 years, he's been kind of, you know, double marked, triple marked at times, and he's still coming out, you know, top scorer for Monaghan every year. Like, McCarron's going to get a few scores himself, but there's going to be a bit more after the league. There'll be a bit more attention on him, and I think it's really going to open things up for McManus. Like, the other thing about that is, I think Tyrone are a horrid price for this. If you look at everything they've come
we could
through,
come to blows here. We could come to blows.
I just think it's going to be like if you are actually working it out, like, you might think that the Derry price is a bit big then, but, like, you still have to go out. Like Derry didn't have a lot of Slaughtneil lads. I don't know however good you think Derry are, but they'd still go to Celtic Park and beat them. Then they've played Donegal in that Ulster semi-final, and, like, Donegal are arguably a better team than they were in last year's Ulster final. They should have won last year's Ulster final. Like, it just came down to pot shots at the end, which Tyrone were lucky enough to get the ball to Peter Hart. Like even if they get to that final against Monaghan, they can't be that short. Like, what price would you be thinking they're going to be against Monaghan in an Ulster final?
Well, to be honest, I'm more interested in Tyrone from an Ireland point of view rather than an Ulster point of view. But I do think they're the one team that have been completely overlooked. The way I looked at it with Tyrone was that when they played Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final 2 years ago, they should have got a penalty. Instead, remember, there was a free out given when they were level with a few minutes to go. There was a free out given for a dive. Like, they could have beaten Kerry that day. They would have been in the All-Ireland final. And then last year, they were by far the better team against Mayo. And I know they lack composure in front of goal, but they're beaten by a point. They were the better team. If they had got over that, I know it's if my auntie had balls and all that kind of stuff, but I think at 9-1, they're probably the one team that overlooked. But again, it wouldn't put me off to see them going down the qualifier route because they've done that before. But I do see your point of view about Monaghan and Ulster, and I think potentially the bet could be for Tyrone and Monaghan to meet in the Ulster final, which I think is around 130, which I think is a good price. Conor, I spoke to you yesterday, and like Paddy, this is like countdown where we'll have to be checking each other's notes, but you're a big fan of Monaghan.
Yeah, I am. Look, I'm a big fan of them in the context of Ulster football and winning an Ulster Championship. I don't see them winning an All-Ireland, but certainly they have what it takes to win an Ulster Championship. I mean, I'm looking at Donegal there, and look, they had a good league performance when you consider everything they've lost in terms of experienced players. And ultimately, Championship is about experienced players. And, you know, I think that while some of their young lads have done well in the league, their ability to do it at this early stage in the Championship, you know, I'd worry a bit about that. Tyrone, again, you know, they probably could make an impact after Ulster. I don't think they'll win an All-Ireland, but for me, they just come too short too often. Yes, they will be very compact in defence, but they just don't get enough scores, and I don't see that improving, you know, in the last while. So I think they're going to be caught there. I certainly think, from a Monaghan perspective, as Paddy said there, McCann, you know, you have a two-pronged approach to the attack, whereas before it was very much all based on Conor McManus. That gives them an added bonus. But the one worry for Monaghan would be if they were to lose any further players, they'd be in serious trouble because their strength and depth would be the weakest of the other teams competing there.
So it's a thumbs up to Monaghan for you in Ulster, Conor?
Yeah, absolutely.
And two questions for you, Paddy. First of all, what price are Monaghan with Paddy Power to win Ulster? And second of all, and far more importantly, what price did Paddy Ahern get on Monaghan to win Ulster?
Yeah, they're 4-1 with us.
Right.
And Paddy Ahern managed us there about a month or two ago.
So, the Shrudy is on at 6s. And Conor, even at 4s, do you think there's a bit of juice in that price?
I think there is. I think that the right side of the draw that gets them into the final anyway. And look, if situations change come final time, we might lay a bit of it off or something.
Oh, we're getting right into the punting policies of Conor Cunningham here.
Dave, you see, I'm not as greedy as you.
See, this is there we go. So this is why we didn't want to lay him the Mayo bits, you know.
So we've got quite confident votes for Monaghan in Ulster and Mayo in Connacht. For what it's worth, I think the bet in Ulster, as I said already, is for Monaghan and Tyrone to meet in the Ulster final at 130. They were quite competitive, those provincial championships, but lads, I think the other two look fairly straightforward in Leinster with Dublin and Munster with Kerry, as much as you probably hate to admit it, Conor. But are we, very, very quickly, are we giving Dublin and Kerry the thumbs up in those two provinces, Conor?
Yeah, look, my heart to rule my head now, but look, obviously, it has to be Dublin and Kerry at this stage.
Paddy?
Yeah, I'd agree, Dublin and Kerry as well. Just for people, you know, Leinster Championship betting can get very, very boring because obviously there isn't even each way because it's so bad each way. But we actually do have a betting without Dublin market as well, so you can back your beloved Meath at 6-5 there, DJ. If you.
Well, I'll tell you something now, and I am the most pessimistic Meath supporter in the world. That odds against is not bad value whatsoever. I think they're a better team than Kildare, and I do think Andy McEntee is a good manager, so there might be a little bit of juice in that price. And just before we move on, there is markets on Dublin specifically in Leinster, specials, isn't there, Paddy?
There is indeed, yeah. Yeah, so I don't think you're good. It's obviously not going to tickle your fancy to back the 1-16 to win, but we have a lot of Leinster Championship handicap markets as well, so you can back the paltry 1-7 for them to win by 3 points or more in every game. But when you're really looking towards, I suppose, is if you want them to win by 8 points or more in Leinster, it's 11-10.
That's to win each their presumably 3 games in Leinster.
3 games in Leinster.
Yeah. By 8 points or more is 11-10.
11-10, yeah. 9 points or more is 11-8. 10 points or more is 15-8. 11 points or more is 11-4. 12 points or more is 4-1. And then if you want to win them 16 points or more, you can get 16-1 on it. Okay.
There we go. So some interesting angles with Dublin there. So moving on to the main event, lads. We've got the 4 provincial winners. We're into the last 8. Conor, we'll come to you first. When it gets down to the nitty gritty, when the Conor Coonahan 50, 100, 200 euro bet is coming out, who is it going to go on? Who do you want batting for you when it comes down to the last innings?
I think it has to be Dublin. Strength and depth, experienced squad. Got a bit of a kick in the backside in the league final. Motivation should be high. Jim Gavin is the best squad in the country. I believe they'll deliver at the end of the day.
And we're looking at around 6-4 for Dublin, Conor. For a lot of people, that'll seem quite short. For others, that'll seem value, and they'll think they should be odds on. Are they the right price?
It's a bit tight at that, because I suppose the whole thing is built around having all your players available, and with injuries and that sort of thing, anything can happen. You lose a key player, or in a match situation, some guy gets sent off, and Dublin have a bit of history around that. That's tight at those odds, but look, you still have to fancy them.
And I know you're a big fan of Jack Mccaffrey, and you think his return to the side is going to make a huge difference to them.
Yeah, look, I think the year he was out, they still managed away fine, but I just think he brings a bit of freshness. He brings that extra bit of pace to it. The fact that he's missed out for 12 months. A lot of the problem here is keeping guys fresh. This guy is going to be fresh. He's going to have appetite. I think he's the man for me in terms of player of the year. Looking at it at this stage, and look, that's a bit of a wild one in terms of the amount of players that are out capable of
yeah, we like wild swings, Conor. We like them.
Well, that's my wild one now, anyway.
So it's Dublin to win the All-Ireland and Jack Mccaffrey to win Player of the Year for Conor Coonahan. Just a couple of prices there, Paddy, and then your thoughts on it. Dublin to win the All-Ireland and Jack Mccaffrey to win Player of the Year. Yeah,
so Dublin are 6-4 for the All-Ireland, and McCaffrey is 20-1 for Player of the Year, which of all those Dublin lads, he would be the one that I would think would probably look a bit big, to be fair.
Really, yeah, and he also won the award in 2015,
yeah, exactly.
So he is a past winner. And the funny thing, I think, I'm not sure if you mentioned this as well, Paddy, tomorrow, is that of the last 5 winners of the Footballer of the Year, only one has been a forward, which is hard to believe. James O'Donoghue is the only forward to have won the award in the last 5 years. But Paddy, on to you now. All-Ireland winners, who is it for you? And is there any bets out there that really appeal?
Yeah, I actually think the Dublin price is right, for a couple of reasons, really. Because if you look at them over the last 12 months, the price they're going off against teams are going to be a bit bigger than I'd say even 12 months ago, because the amount of times that they have kind of fallen over the line, or they're beating the teams by a point, or they're beating the team by 2 points, and that have to be kind of considered into their price as well, So I think if you add everything up, that 6-4 is it's a price that we're pretty happy laying, to be honest, because that as good a team as Dublin are, 3 in a row is really, really hard to do too. My bet for the championship would be Kerry each way at 3-1. It's not as good as the greatest each way bet of all time, who was Mayo last year.
Oh.
But it's still working out that Kerry are going to be just probably around even money to make the final. If you're backing them each way, you're going to get 6-4 in them to reach the final. They probably will come up against maybe Mayo if everything goes to plan in the semi-final. They're still going to be favourites for that match. And then if they get to an All-Ireland final against Dublin, they're not going to be the 5-2 or whatever Mayo were last year. It's even after this year's league final, it's going to be really short. I'd say it's probably going to be something like maybe 4-6 Dublin, 6-4 Kerry, or something like that. So we think Kerry at 3-1 would be the bet. Footballer of the Year, I found it hard to really come down on a real confidence selection here. I would like to look at McCaffrey at the price, but the thing about it is McCaffrey going to start every game? He should in an ideal world, but I don't know, is Jim Gavin going to start him in every league game? He didn't start him in the league final, so it's hard to know. I just thought maybe the solid one would be Paul Geaney, just because there's going to be so much competition with all the Dublin fellas. You've got Conley, you've got Fenton, you've got Kieran Kilkenny, whereas if Kerry go and win an All-Ireland, I think their 2 best players are David Moore and Paul Geaney, and Geaney really looks like a proper talisman at the minute. They put him taking all the frees in the second half of the league, and I think he's going to have a really big championship.
So Kerry and Paul Geaney for Paddy Ahern from Paddy Power. For what it's worth, I think there's some 9s out there about Tyrone to win the All-Ireland. I think that's about possibly 3 points too big. And one player who I think could take the summer by storm is Niall Sludden. Big prices about him being Footballer of the Year. I just think the way he plays, his pace, he destroyed Dublin in the league match scoring 3 points and really was the difference between Tyrone getting in contention with Dublin and not. And I think he's one player that's been overlooked in that market. So keep an eye on Niall Sludden for the Player of the Year market.
He's 50-1 with us, and if Tyrone do anything, it really will be down to himself. Hard.
Yeah, he's an exceptional talent, and it's funny. I know they love him up north, but down here there's not as much talk about him. I was blown away by him during the league, I have to say. So lads, before we finish up, finally, the best bet of the Football Championship. Conor, we're going to start with you. The best bet, if you have your last fiver, what's it going on in the Football Championship? Anything at all?
I'm sticking with Monaghan.
Monaghan to win Ulster.
Yeah, that's my one.
Monaghan to win Ulster at 4-1 for Conor Coonahan. Paddy Ahern?
Yeah, there's not that I'd suggest you go to a different company or anything like that. There's a big little bit bigger out on Monaghan, and Monaghan for Ulster be music.
Monaghan to win Ulster for Paddy Ahern, and I'm going to take a little different approach. There's also a different company that are offering match bets on who'll get further. Monaghan to get further than Donegal at 5-4. I thought.
Yeah, I like that one as well.
Yeah, that looked big to me. I thought they should have been odds on given their route through Ulster. So that's it, folks. That's the end of the football preview. Thanks a million to Conor Coonan for joining us on the line today. Paddy, you'll be staying for the hurling preview, and we're just going to take a quick break.
Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV Championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to our 2017 GAA Postcast, and we're going to look ahead to the Hurling Championship now. And when we were trying to sort out what guests to get on this Postcast, we were looking for a Waterford hurler, the man that's adored in the Dacia, a multiple All-Star winner, an unbelievable talent, a classy forward. We wanted to get the man that every man wants to be and every woman wants to be with. Unfortunately, Dan Shanahan wasn't available, so we've got John Milan instead. How are you, John?
How's it going, lads? I think you got one part of it right. I don't think every woman wants to be with me, but maybe every person, maybe every male wants to be with me, but I think the female part I think you have wrong.
I'll tell you something, John. It's amazing what fame can do for you.
Well, look, I'll tell you, if it wasn't for fame, I probably wouldn't be married right now. So, I done all right out of it now. I picked up a good wife out of it, so I'm not doing too bad. And,
there's a few brownie points for you anyway, John. Now, before we get stuck into the Hurling Championship, a friend of yours in Paddy Power, both Paddy Ahern's and your pal Rob Catterson, told me about to ask you about the worst bet you've ever had. So can you kick off with that?
The worst bet?
Yeah, they were the strict instructions I was told to ask. He told me, I'll read out the text now. He said, Milan, ask him about his worst betting moment. His worst betting moment. I'm looking forward to this now.
My worst betting moment, I would have to say last year I was waiting on Middleton to win the Cork Senior Hurling Championship, and I was waiting on him for massive money. And you know, I had a treble done. I had Tyrone to win the Ulster Football Championship, Waterford to win the Under-21 All-Ireland, and I had a big rollover going on to Middleton to win the Cork Senior Hurling Championship. They were even money, and they got to the semi-final stage. I was kind of thinking along the lines of laying off a few pounds. My good friend Growler Daly said, "Don't. They'll beat Aaron Zone in the semi-final."
Never trust somebody called Growler.
Yes, and he said, "Wait till the final." He said they'll be playing the Glen in the final. I took his advice, and lo and behold, they got chinned in the semi-final against Aaron Zone. And I said to myself, you know, geez, I should have just went with my gut instinct. So I say that was my worst bet. Me most favourable bet was back in 2002. We won the Munster final in 2002, first time in 39 years. But on that day, we were going down. You know, the World Cup final was on at 12 o'clock that day. I was after backing Brazil to win the World Cup and Ronaldo to be top goal scorer, and I did the two of them in a double as well. and I won the bones of $3,500. My good friend Brian the Bull Phelan, he was on the team, or he was on the panel the same day. I think he won about $2,500. So I think between the two of us, we were up about $6,000 before the ball was even pucked. I remember saying to the Bull and the lads, I said this could be a good day, and lo and behold, we pushed on and we won the Munster final the same day against the All-Ireland champs Tipperary, and let's just say, I think there was a good chunk of those winnings were gone by the Thursday, all on sociable and enjoyable drinks. And let's just say I put my hand in my pocket that week.
So that's what it's all about, John. That's what you call a successful Sunday. And just touching on your time at Waterford, John, obviously, you know, your record speaks for itself. 5 All-Stars, 4 Munster titles, a National League. You know, like you were one of the hurlers that we all love to watch. And during your time, I suppose it was hugely enjoyable for you playing as much as it was for us watching. But some great moments.
Yeah, some fantastic moments. I suppose, look, we never got over the line, but some fantastic memories. You know, and I suppose the great Tommy Welch, he always said, you know, it was always about the great memories. And for me, you know, some fantastic memories to be involved in some fantastic games through that era of the noughties. And I played with some fantastic players, and I played against some fantastic players. And you know, I suppose the standout memories would have been that 0-2 Munster final. You know, the first time.
Of course it was. You're after winning $3,500.
Yeah, I won $3,500. That was the standout moment. Then in 0-3 we came back in Munster final. You know, I got a hat trick the same day. We got beaten by Cork. But the following year, then we beat Cork in a mammoth game up in Thurles in front of 55,000. I was sent off the same day, and I missed the All-Ireland semi-final against Kilkenny. Probably could have been the year we could have pushed on and won the All-Ireland. We came back in 0-7 then, and we won the league.
What'd you get sent off for?
Oh, well, I kind of gave Brian Murphy a small little hit. It was nothing major. I got a month, but I probably should have got 3 months in the end, you know. But look, it was a mistake that probably, you know, I look back and throughout the course of my career, and it was that one moment I kind of said to myself, you know, Jesus, you know, if I didn't get sent off that day, I would have been available for the All-Ireland semi-final that, you know, against Kilkenny, that we possibly could have pushed on and won, and you know, we would have probably got to a final. Would have been playing Cork again. Would we have beaten Cork in the final? Who knows? But one sure thing, if we got to a final, it would have set us up for the next couple of years. I just think we needed to get to a final in the early noughties, just experience a final whether we won it or not. And you know, I think when we eventually got to the final in 0-8, I think that the lads, a lot of lads on the team, great players, were probably coming to the end of it. And I suppose looking back, you know, I think we could have avoided a hurricane. We met Kilkenny the same day, and I don't think the pick of the country would have beaten Kilkenny the same day, unfortunately. But look, we recovered from that All-Ireland defeat, and we pushed on and we won another Munster Championship under the guidance of Davy Fitzgerald. And then I suppose retired in 2012, and you know, some great times and some great memories I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. Now, that was then, this is now, and we're obviously mad looking forward to the start of the Hurling Championship and kicking off on Sunday. And Paddy, we'll come to you first. You're predominantly a hurling man, and I'm sure you're hugely excited about the championship kicking off. And it's an intriguing market at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll just run through a few prices, I suppose. We've tipped the top of the market at 13-8. We've Galway at 7-2, Kilkenny 4-1, Waterford 7-1, Clare 10-1, Limerick and Cork are both at 20-1 and 28-1. Wexford 33's Dublin and 500's the rest.
And Paddy, obviously the league is still fresh in our memory. What did we learn most from the league? For most of the league, it looked like it was going to be potentially a cakewalk for Tipperary, but that league final, that annihilation at the hands of Galway has opened things up a little bit, and it's not quite as clear cut as we thought.
Yeah, definitely. I think the league has shown that Galway are real contenders. Like, if you look at the average age of the team now, it's about 25, 26, and even in that, there's a lot of experience. Like, there's guys in that team that's lost 2 All-Ireland finals, and what really impresses me about Galway at the minute is the spine of their team just looks so solid. Like, Garage McInerney, for a guy who was playing his first real big game at number 6 for Galway, was absolutely immense in the league final. Now, he's not naive enough to think he's going to have as good a day every day when he goes out playing centre back for Galway, but he looks to be hurling really well this year. You've got Dahi Burke at full back and Joe playing centre forward. Like, down the middle, Galway just look really strong, and they look like they're a really, really poor matchup for Tipperary, and I'd say they're going to be a good matchup for anyone. I think the one other thing that we kind of saw during the league as well is that, dare I say it, the production line in Kilkenny just seems to be slowing down a small bit. It seems kind of weird to be offering them at 4-1 to an All-Ireland and actually not taking a lot of money on them, but it just, with those big players, any of Killian Buckley, Richie Hogan, TJ Reid gets injured, it just doesn't look like they have the replacement at the minute, you know.
No, absolutely not. And you spoke about not much money coming for Tipperary, or for Kilkenny rather, Paddy. Who's the worst loser in the Hurling Championship book at the moment?
The worst loser in the book at the minute is Tip. So even from last year's All-Ireland, we were kind of laying a bit of 2-1, and when they were getting up steam during the league, people were kind of latching on at kind of 7-4 kind of prices, because like during the league they went as short as 11-8, maybe even 5-4. They're back out to 13-8 now, so we're laying a good bit of the kind of Tip Dublin doubles. And yeah, Tip is kind of the one that everyone seems to want to be with at the minute. You know?
And before we move on to the All-Ireland chat, we just touch on the 2 provincial championships, Leinster and Munster. Just rattle out a few prices for us in those, Paddy, and just your picks for the 2 provincial titles.
Yeah, so for Munster we have Tip are top of the market at 11-10. Waterford 7-2, Clare 4-1, Limerick are 11-2, and Cork the outsiders at 10s. It's just, it looks like the hardest route the Tip have possible. They're going to have to play their 3 games, and I think the one that might just trip them up could be the Waterford game. Like, I expect a difference in tactics this year from Waterford, so we'll say the last 2 times they played Tipperary, they've played the sweeper and they've got no joy out of it. Like what they showed last year in the semi-final against Kilkenny when they went man-to-man, that they actually do have scorers that are kind of coming of age, the likes of Patrick Kern, the likes of Shane Bennett. And I think they're going to give Tip maybe a few more problems than they have in previous years this year.
And so do you think potentially Waterford might be a bet for Munster then?
Yeah, I think there's 4-1 out there. If I was, I'd prefer to, like with Tip having the 3 games, I'd prefer to back Waterford at 4-1 than I would back in Tip at just slightly odds against, to be honest. And
before we move on to John, just a quick show of Leinster prices and your pick for Leinster.
Yes, so for Leinster, it's Galway and Kilkenny are 5-4 the pair. We've Wexford at 7-1. The Dubs are 9-1. Offaly are 40-1, 150 Laois and 250-1 Westmeath.
And your pick?
My pick for this would be Galway. Like I say, I still think that final is probably going to be a pick and match, but the thing is, there is always the problem if Kilkenny get any sort of a knock, if Kilkenny get any injuries, then they're going to be very vulnerable, I think. And I think it's time. Like, the only unknown of this Galway team is, can they beat Kilkenny in the big game in Croke Park or anywhere else? And I think it's high time they did, to be honest.
Okie doke. So it's Waterford in Munster and Galway in Leinster for Paddy Ahern from Paddy Powers. John, you know Waterford better than anybody, and they've made giant strides under Derek McGrath. Could this be the year of Waterford? I know it's probably wishful thinking on your part, but we don't want to hear what the heart thinks. We want to hear what John Milan's head thinks about Waterford.
Yeah, well, I'll be straight up to you. I think they'll be in the last 4. They showed last year, with a bit of luck against Kilkenny, they could have been in the September decider. I think if they would have beaten Tipperary in the final, I think it would have been a totally different game to what we've seen in the Munster final. They've shown that they're good enough. They've shown that they have the personnel to push on, to greater things. But I think, like Paddy, I think I would like to see him win a trophy first, and I think those odds are 4-1 to win the Munster title are appealing odds. If they win the Munster Championship, if they can get over Tipperary, granted Tipperary beat Cork, I think there is a small bit of a mental block with Tipperary over the last couple of years. I think if they were to beat Tipperary in a big game, I think sky's the limit for Waterford. I think they could really kick on to the greater things.
And you heard Paddy talking about the potential change of system if they did play Tipperary. Could you see that happening, that Derek will tweak things a little bit?
I think he'd still be a small bit defensive, but I'm of the belief that Galway have proved in the league final. I think the only way to go at Tipperary and to beat Tipperary is to go man on man and really push up on them. I think if Tipperary have the sweeper system sussed, I think they're the one team that can really nullify the effect of a sweeper system. If you play a sweeper system and you give the likes of Pádraig Maher, Ronan Maher time on the ball, they'll hit 10 balls in around the square, right? They mightn't win 5 or 6 of them, but they might win the other 4. They might win the other 4, and the other 4 might end up in the back of the net. But I just think if you're to beat Tipperary, I think you have to put their half back line on the back foot, limit the amount of balls going into their full forward line, and I think that's the avenue the Cork will approach the weekend. I think they'll try and put that half back line on the back foot, and for any other team playing Tipperary this year, I think they've got to go the Galway route. I think you've got to have 2 or 3 good man markers to mark the personnel they have in the full forward line, the likes of John McGraths, the Shamey Cannons, the Bubbles of the Wires. I think Galway have that, and Galway showed then that they had a strong half forward line out the last day. Joe Cannon, Cottle Mannion and Joseph Coney. They put the Tipperary half back line on the back foot, and we've seen what effect it had with Galway pushing on and winning by 16 points. So yes, I think Waterford do have the personnel, but I think it's if Tip get over this match Sunday against Cork, which I think won't be as clear cut as everyone thinks it will be. I think Tipperary will just about win Sunday. Well, then we're set up for a mouth-watering game on June the 18th, and I think Derek McGrath and his management team are throwing all these eggs into the basket for that date and that fixture.
So are we staying loyal to Waterford in Munster, John?
Yeah, I'm going to coincide with Paddy. I'm along the lines of 11 to 10 Tipperary for me wouldn't be appealing for me. Considering that they are 13 to 8 to win the All Ireland. You take it last year, they were if you were having a bet last year, they were 9 to 2 to win the All Ireland. I wouldn't even touch Tipperary at 13 to 8 to win the All Ireland. I won't go near them at 11 to 10 to win Munster. I think they could come unstuck, and I think Paddy is right. If they are going to come unstuck, I think that could be the fixture where they could come unstuck. And if Waterford are to win that Munster semi-final, I think they'll push on and win the Munster Championship. So I'm going to coincide with Paddy. I'm going to go for Waterford to win the Munster Championship. They are 7 to 2 at the moment. If you shop around out there, you might get 4 to 1. Would I go with Waterford 4 to 1 or Tipperary 11 to 10 to win Munster? I wouldn't forget about Clare either. Clare 4 to 1. I think they're a penalty kick from beating Limerick. They're 4 to 6 to beat Limerick. I think if there's anyone out there looking to buy money, or if you're the old saying money for jam, I think Clare will beat Limerick, and I think albeit they're 4 to 6, I think Clare will be in the Munster decider, and I think it could be possibly a Waterford Clare final, but I still will go for Waterford to win Munster.
Nothing wrong with a 4 to 6 winner, John. Money for jam, nothing wrong with that. We'll take any price we can get.
No. Any winning money is as good as any money,
Yeah,
so
and when it's your 60,000 to win 40,000, it's not too bad.
Well, I won't be playing around with that type of money, but I tell you, anyone out there who does have money, I think the money for jam for me is Clare to beat Limerick at 4 to 6.
And I think we might hear more phrases of money for jam in the Leinster Championship. Like Paddy, I think you're a big Galway fan for Leinster as well.
Oh yeah, I'm all over this.
Tell listeners what you told me yesterday now.
5 to 4 Galway. They're my nap at the championship to win Leinster. The only thing is they were 5 to 2 before the league final. They're gone into 5 to 4. I think they'll overcome.
Tell them your bet, John.
Well, I suppose the bet I was looking at doing a treble. I can sometimes get a small bit greedy. I'm looking at Clare 4.
No. Tell them what you're waiting on Galway to win Leinster. They were the third leg of a treble, weren't they?
No, I was considering doing a treble. Of Clare to beat Limerick, Galway to win Leinster, and Juventus to win the Champions League.
All right, okay.
To lift the cup. I have it in my head to do that treble, but I also have it in my head to back Galway to win Leinster at 5-4. They're gone short. They were 5-2. I did have a treble. I had a treble going to Kerry under 21.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Right. Yeah, I had
Tell
a treble
us the hard
going.
luck story.
And the boys in the Kingdom, the under 21 boys in the Kingdom, they left me down. So that bet has gone out the window. But I'm still looking at Galway at 5-4, and I might have a few bob in Galway to win Leinster 5-4.
Lovely. So it's we're all in agreement. I think Galway to win Leinster. Huge price a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, it's only 5-4 now, but I think we still think that perhaps odds against is probably the wrong price. And lads, the only thing left to decide now is who wins the All Ireland. And John, we'll come to you first. We're in the All Ireland final morning. Who do you think will be contesting the final, and who do you think will win it?
Right, I'm looking at the All Ireland odds. Would I go near Tipperary at 13-8 to win the All Ireland? I wouldn't. Galway are 7-2. Would I go near Kilkenny at 4-1? If ever there's a year to lay a bet on Kilkenny, I think this is the year to lay a bet. I wouldn't even back him with your money now, Dave. I think if they pick up a couple of injuries, TJ Reid and Richie Hogan are pushing on. If they get any sort of injury in their backline, I think they're going to be in trouble. Waterford at odds of 7-1 and Clare at odds of 10-1. Very appealing. But what I would be looking at those two is to reach a final. There's appealing odds there as well for any of those two to reach the final. I think Clare are 3-1 to reach an All Ireland final. Waterford are 2-1 to reach an All Ireland final. An awful lot of talk out there that it's going to be either Tipperary, Galway, or a Galway Kilkenny final. One bet that is really sticking out for me, I think if Galway push on and win Leinster, I think they'll go very close to winning the All Ireland. So they are 7-2. I will be looking at Galway to win Leinster and the All Ireland of odds of 11-2. I'm going to go for Galway to win the All Ireland. I've seen enough of them in the league final. They're big, they're strong, they're skillful, they're all well able to hurl. They've got a good balance to their side. They're strong up the middle. They're building up a good panel of players. They have a very good manager. And I've said it before, I just think it could be written in the stars that it could be Galway's year. They were very, very unlucky the last 2 years. 2015, they beat Tipperary. Last year, Joe Cannon and Adrian Toohey went off injured. If the two of them would have stayed on the field, Tipperary may not be All Ireland champions at the present moment of time. But for me, I'm going to go for Galway to win Leinster and to win the All Ireland of odds of 11-2.
Come on, John. So it's a cracking year for the tribesmen, according to John Milan. Paddy Ahern, who wins the All Ireland?
Yeah, well, that's music to my ears now. John talking us up. If Galway do that,
yeah. For people that don't know, Paddy Ahern is a staunch Galway man. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, no, I think I discussed this with you before as well, Dave, how sometimes we find it kind of hard to price up our own counties just because you get so kind of invested and involved in it. But this it's the first year since I've been following that you really, really are getting properly excited that they have a real chance of winning the All Ireland. If it wasn't for the job and if there wasn't prizes involved, they would be my pick to go all the way. I think they're ready, and I think I think kind of everything is in place for Galway to win it. Just at the prices, if I had to have a bet on the market, I think I'd probably be backing Waterford each way.
And that's music to John's ears.
Yeah, well, if they get over that tip match, I know they're obviously going to be outsiders. They'll be 9-4 for that game. But if they get over that, then they have the clear run that Tip would look to have. They'll avoid Galway. They might play Kilkenny in the semi-final if Kilkenny came through a quarter. But I think this Waterford team, they really should have beaten Kilkenny last year. I think they're well able to beat Kilkenny. If I have to have a bet, like when you're looking at 13-8, you're looking at 7-2 Galway, and then you're looking at the 8-1 that's out there in Waterford. I think if I had to have a bet in the market, it'd definitely be Waterford at the minute.
And lads, before we wrap things up, I just want the name of one player that's going to take the Hurling Championship by storm this summer. John, just the name of one player you think can make a real name for himself.
Well, can I name 3 or 4 that I might think might burn it up this summer?
Go on, seeing as you're a 5-time All-Star, we'll let you have 3 or 4.
Right, for the market for Hurler of the Year, if Waterford are to be successful, and Paddy Ahern is right in his prediction, Jamie Barnes 66-1 to be the Hurler of the Year. He's the main cog in the wheel for me. I think if Waterford are to have a successful year, this lad is going to be the main man. This lad is the real deal. I think he's possibly one of the best midfielders in the country at the present moment of time. If Clare, I'm looking at the top 5. I don't think the winner will come from outside of Tipperary, Galway, Kilkenny, Waterford, Clare. Looking at David McInerney, another big lad for Clare. If Clare are to push on from have from their 2013 success, I think he's going to have a big year. 66-1 as well. Could Austin Gleeson repeat the feat of last year? No lad has ever done back-to-back Hurler of the Years. But if I am to pick one lad, I'm going to go for Big Joe Cannon. I think, he's number 11 at the moment. He's playing that free role. I think he's found his position. I think there's no pressure on him at the moment. I think he's enjoying his hurling. He's bringing all the other Galway players into play. You've seen it in the league final. I think he's out in that role. I think he's unmarkable. I think if Galway are to push on and win this All-Ireland, I think Joe Cannon is going to have a big year. He's never won Hurler of the Year before. I'm going to go for Joe Cannon to be Hurler of the Year at odds of 10-1.
Lovely. Joe Canning to be Hurler of the Year, 10-1. Paddy, just the name. We're tight on time, so the name of the Hurler of the Year for you?
Yeah, I think one of the most consistent hurlers in the country the last 2 years has been David Burke, and in that market, if I was to have a bet, I think Burke at 16-20-1 is the one I'd be picking.
Lovely. And now we'll just wrap it up, lads. In one word, who wins the All-Ireland? I'll go first. Tipperary. John? Galway. Paddy?
Waterford.
So there's three from the whole field for you there. Waterford, Galway and Tipperary. So hopefully you've it's been more of a help than a hindrance to you, this GAA podcast.
Can I just mention there one more bet if I can, Dave?
Yeah.
I saw a price out there on David Burke to win an All-Star that I think is absolutely colossal. They're 7-2 to win the All-Ireland. There was 10-3 out there on him to win an All-Star. So
that's David Burke.
Well, I'm going to go better again. Dave. I'm going to bet that this Adrian Toohey lad, he's a cornerback for Galway. I've watched him last year. I've watched him. He's the only fellow who marshalled John McGrath throughout the course of the league. He's tight. He's tenacious. I think he's going to be on all the best hurlers this year, and he's massive odds of 10-1 to get an All-Star. If Galway win the All-Ireland, he's going to have a big summer. So you've heard it first. Adrian Toohey at odds of 10-1 to win an All-Star.
Oh, I like the sound of that. Adrian Toohey to win an All-Star. So there you go, folks. That's our GAA Postcast for the 2017 season. My thanks to Conor Coonahan, who joined us for the football preview, to the hugely informative John Milan, who joined us for the hurling preview, and Paddy Ahern, who was very insightful on both the hurling and the football championship. I've been David Jennings, and best of luck with your bets throughout the football and hurling championship.
Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.